I want to say once again, I appreciate you hopping on this call with me. I know you have a busy schedule, but I want to start off with when did you know you wanted to go professionally in hockey?
That's an interesting question. I knew I loved hockey when I was a little boy. I was growing up in Needham, Mass, and I was born in '65. And when I was 5 years old, Bobby Orr was legendary. The Bruins were legendary. Everybody in the neighborhood was playing street hockey, and I had a pond behind my house. So,
Hmm.
and I was the youngest kid in the family in the neighborhood. So, I just tagged along with everybody, and it was a different world back then. We didn't have
Hmm.
cable TV. We didn't have anything but sports for recreation, neighborhood groups, and hockey was just, I loved it from day one. But I also loved baseball and football and soccer, and I played four sports growing up because that's what we did back then. But as
Yeah.
far as when knew I wanted to go professionally, I dreamed about playing for the Bruins. I dreamed about the Olympics after the '80 team, and you really don't know if you're going to make it. And I was pretty good at other sports, so until I was about a junior, sophomore, junior in high school, when I was elevated to sort of a national standard level as one of the best kids
Hmm.
in the country, then I knew I kind of had a shot. But I was still looking to college. At that point in time, getting a scholarship, and my junior year, I was a first round draft pick of the Hartford Whalers. It was in June of '83. I still remember it. Just finishing up my last final exam at Lawrence Academy when I
Hmm.
get the call. And then a couple of weeks later, I was trying out for the Olympic team, and I made that team. And then I was leaving a month later to go on a 6.5 month tour, an exhibition tour where we played pre Olympic Games, about 63 or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, Leading up to the Olympics in February. So it was quite an experience, for a high school kid to travel, spend 6.5 months on the road, and, just the relationships. And it was just such a amazing experience for me. And at that point, then really it was like pro hockey was like on the horizon.
Hmm. Do you feel like from talking about Olympic team, do you feel any pressure playing after the Miracle on Ice team?
Probably a little bit, but I'll tell you, I was 17 when I made the Olympic team, and I was too young to really even realize, the stage we
Yeah.
were on. And I was playing on a line that was called the diaper line. And
Hmm.
because we're so young, I would play with Eddie Olczyk, who's an NBC analyst now, and
Hmm.
Pat LaFontaine, who's a Hall of Famer, and he was
Yeah.
18 and Eddie and I was 17 when we came in, and we were young, but we just went out there and played. We had really good support from the coaches, and we were pretty darn successful. Unfortunately, it comes down to a tournament where one game can really tip the scales whether you're going to be successful or not. And unfortunately, we finished third in our division that year behind Canada and Czechoslovakia, so we didn't advance to the middle round. And we were in Sarajevo, Yugoslavia, which is a little different than home in the States, right, in Lake Placid.
Yeah. Would you say growing up to leading at that point, did you have any mentors that were key in directing you in the right way to go professionally?
Well, I did, but I had many along the way. So a
Hmm.
lot of good mentors I had in Needham Youth Hockey were coaches. There was a gentleman, and his son was my best friend, legendary coach named Harry Duvall in the youth program, who coached me through Pee-wees and Bantams. And he was a phenomenal mentor. And then I get to Belmont Hill, and Kenny Martin and Eddie Gallagher, coaches, were phenomenal mentors. And a guy named Scott Fusco was a freshman at Belmont Hill when he was a senior, and he played in the Olympic team with me in '84. And his brother Mark
Hmm.
played as well. So Scotty was a really good mentor to me as well as a freshman in high school. You don't forget those things.
Hmm.
And then going on to playing, he went to Harvard that my sophomore year. He moved on, but he had a great career. Won a Hobie Baker there, and so did his brother. And it was fun to sort of elevate to the Olympics. And then Mark and I, Fusco, we were rookies on the Hartford Whalers in '84 after the
Hmm.
Olympics. It's pretty cool. So good mentors there. And then in the pros, I had some great mentors, Olympic team, legendary coaches like Louis Vero and Timmy Taylor, mentors, and some of the guys from the '80 team, Phil Vercoda, captain, mentors. So not just one, many
Hmm.
mentors who help you. And then you get to the pros, and you got guys like coaches like Terry O'Reilly or teammates like him that,
Hmm.
tough as nails on the ice, but true gentlemen off the ice, and compassionate human beings. who were just
Mhm.
great role models as character people, you know?
Mhm. Do you think growing up in Massachusetts helped you become a hockey player because you got that cold weather in the Northeast?
No doubt, especially in my era where hockey was really, as far as the, should I say, elite or, more developmental, and you play more hockey, it was Mass,
Mhm.
Michigan, and Minnesota. Outside of that, and then later in the '80s, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and out west, Wisconsin was a big hockey. But now it's national. Like
Yeah.
they have select teams and they play all year long. When I grew up, you played soccer and football in the fall, hockey for 3.5 months in the winter, baseball in the spring. Lacrosse wasn't even around. And then the summers, you were down the Cape playing street hockey with the Golden Retriever,
Mhm.
so to speak,
Yeah.
and water and stuff, which was a great life. I wouldn't change it for the world. And yeah, if I didn't grow up in Massachusetts, I don't think I would have played in the Olympic team in my era.
How was it when you got drafted to Harvard, being so close to Massachusetts? Did that make you
It,
feel more comfortable?
yeah, it was really a great thing. I was picked. I actually made the draft by only a couple of weeks because my birthday's in late August, and the cutoff
Mhm.
to September. I would have been the following draft, and
Yeah.
had been drafted as a junior in high school. So it hurt me in some ways because I couldn't play pro hockey next year. And back in those days, the first round draft pick was expected to jump in the next year. So
Yeah.
I kind of slipped to number 20 in the draft where, I was rated as a top 10, that
Mhm.
throughout that year. Having said that, the Bruins had the last pick in the first round, which was the 21st back then, only 21 teams. So it was sort of bittersweet because I went to Hartford close by, but Boston was the next pick. That,
Mhm.
there was a lot of speculation they would have drafted me, as a
Uh-huh.
Bruins out of the gate. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I
So
understand with that.
yeah, but hey, listen, I was excited to be a draft pick, a first rounder, and I couldn't have been more excited, thrilled, honored, the whole 9 yards to even be drafted at all. It was a dream.
Mhm. Well, I always like asking professionally, did you ever have the like welcome to the league moment?
I probably had it even before I was welcome to the NHL because with the Olympic team, one thing we did is we played 20 games against the NHL teams in their preseason. So that was,
Mhm.
it was a taste of pro hockey. Then after the Olympics, I went back to high school and graduated in '84 that June, and then I made
Mhm.
the Canada Cup team in for August of '84, which was before the NHL season back then. Which the Canada Cup team is like a World Cup team. It's the best professionals, from Canada, U.S., Sweden, Finland, Czech, and Russia.
Mhm.
Powerhouse, right? And
Yeah.
they were cream of the crop. I mean, Canada had Gretzky and Lemieux, and their whole defense corps was Bork, Coffey, Scotty Stevens, are all Hall of Famers. Larry Murphy, in our team we had 10 Hall of Famers on our team. So we played a exhibition schedule then where we played Canada like 6 times,
Mhm.
exhibition, and then Russia, Sweden a few times, and so I'll tell you that was hockey at the highest level. There was a couple of welcome, and I'll tell you one. The first one I think I had, because I think I know where you're going, was we were playing Canada in Edmonton in an exhibition game, and we're on a 5-on-3 power play, and I was playing like the umbrella, where I was on my off wing, and
Mhm.
the umbrella was you had a defenseman up top. I'm on the right side as a lefty shot and a righty across. Well, we were passing the puck around, and Mark Messier is out there. If you know who Mark Messier is, he hit like a train, and we were
Mhm.
passing around. The pass came over to me where I'm thinking I'm going to one time, and I put my head down to one time it, and boom, I got hit by a truck. And all I remember is kind of
Yeah.
looking up, with stars and everything, and seeing number 11 Messier, Team Canada
Uh-huh.
skating the puck the other way. And I'm like, holy God, I've never been hit like that before.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever been hit like that twice is Cam Neely, same type of thing when I was playing with the Caps, going into a corner with him, full
Mhm.
speed for a puck. And, you don't bail out, right? Even though it's Neely. And I tried to
Yeah.
hit. It was just like, again, on your looking up at him, like, what was that hit me, right?
Uh-huh.
So a few bad boys back in the day.
Who would you say is the best teammate you ever played with?
Teammate.
Yeah, teammate.
Yeah. I really couldn't put it down to one. I have such a special relationship with Pat LaFontaine from the Olympic experience. But there's really so many that I played with. That every team I played on, whether it was Hartford, Ron Francis was phenomenal, and several
Mm-hmm.
others. When I went to Washington, we had Rod Langway and Scotty Stevens, and guys like that, and Larry Murphy, and numerous others. They're all good guys. Hockey players, I got to tell you, like 99% of them, and I think today as well, genuine, really good human beings. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
that's the culture that you're raised in. There's a lot of sacrifice, commitment, and blood, sweat, and tears that you live together, so to speak, right? It's a family.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And again, with Boston, you got Bork and Naily and those guys that I was fortunate enough to play with, and many more, played for Terry.
Yeah.
And Terry and I, he's one of my closest friend now, and he's a business partner, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't say one. They're all right at the top,
All right, what if I asked it the other way around? Who's the best player you ever went against?
Wow. So, I played against Gretzky and Lemieux in those days. So it's tough. Then again, you look at, Ray Bork was one hell of a player, to play against. And Paul, there's a lot of Hall of Famers out there I played against. But I think you'd have to put Lemieux and Gretzky up at the top just based on the history of the game, In my opinion, Bobby Orr is the greatest hockey player to ever play, But I didn't get a chance to play against him. I think I was 11 when he retired,
Yeah. How was it after the NHL going into other leagues?
Pardon me?
How was it after the NHL?
You mean the transition?
Yeah.
From pro sports to, well, it wasn't easy. I'll be honest with you. Even my career wasn't easy because my game was speed and skill, and a lot of speed. I was one of the fastest guys in the league. Even coming in off the Olympic team, and unfortunately, I had a very serious knee reconstruction injury my rookie year, where I completely destroyed my knee and disintegrated, the 3 major ligaments that had to be reconstructed with tendons. So I was never the same player from, the time I was 19 years old to the end of my career. And in 8 years of pro hockey, I had, a couple of reconstructive knee surgeries, 2 reconstructive shoulder surgeries, and it was difficult. So I retired in 92, still battling and, realizing that I just physically couldn't take it anymore. And then I transitioned out of that to growing up in Needham. My dad was an attorney, and I had a little experience in the title world doing title examinations for him. And I started just doing that, which, over time, grew to be very successful. But the thing that is really difficult, transition, it's not the bright lights and the goals and the assists. It's the camaraderie and relationships and the family, like you feel like you're losing, if you know what I mean. Because when you jump out of that, even though you probably could go back and try to hang out with those guys and, whether it was the Bruins or not, you just don't feel like you're part of that. It's a real group, and you kind of, it can lead to some isolation, some depression. And even now today, guys feel that same way,
Yeah.
It's difficult. It really is. And we have a great NHL alumni that helps support alumni with that transition, because that's where it really gets you. You feel like you lose your identity somewhat, and you lose those relationships, and you're lost, for a little bit. So I did feel that, way for a while until, I got married. It took a year or two, I got married, had kids, and, a different life, different chapter of your life. But it's a hard transition out of the gate.
What would some things you try to do to, when you're out of the leagues, just to make sure you're not just sitting around doing nothing? What's some things you like to do?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, honestly, like now or then, back then, again, a lot of your identity's tied when you're a professional hockey player for a long time. So, everything's structured around it. Even your off season, you're training, you're skating a little bit, that type of thing. So you really got to create those type of things, right? So just back to like what I love to do, and the most important thing we do today too is community impact stuff. Working with kids, coaching kids, teaching kids, anti-bullying programs. We've talked to kids about the opioid addiction crisis and all that stuff. So like that's the most rewarding, impactful thing I do. Obviously, I love watching sports. I love being active out there on the ice. I love, the Bruins alumni, as a member of that, we have so many charitable functions we're involved with, whether it's charity golf events. We play 30 plus alumni games. So it keeps me busy. I enjoy that. And I enjoy my family, friends and family. So I'm a pretty simple guy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, how is it just after, did you ever want to be like that attorney like your father you said you was? Did you like end up being like, yeah, I really want to do that?
Well, not so much like I had a dream to be an attorney. No. Like I said, when I started my title company, I was a hard worker and I'm a type A personality. So I grew it to be pretty successful. And it was like I was working with a ton of attorneys, and I worked for First American Title Insurance and their business development department. So having said that, like it was sort of like being an attorney in that realm, but there's, it was all real estate driven. So, the market fluctuates, right? Up and down. There were some really good years in there, obviously. But when I transitioned out of that, in 2010-ish, that's when I started my DAJ hockey and the community impact stuff, because I was looking for more than that, if you know what I mean, to fulfill my life. Yeah.
Would you say a lot of people after they retire, they're not in the right place? Would you say you were smart financially once you left?
Well, I'll tell you this. So financially, what we made back then to what they make now, we made peanuts, So like I did the smartest thing you could do with money, invest in real estate and stuff like that. But we didn't retire millionaires, even the best guys in the league, when I came in, they were making 250,000 a year. You know what I mean? So taxes back then and, expenses, it's not a lot of money, it really, the money in the NHL didn't rise to millionaire status as far as contracts per year until like the low to mid 90s after I was gone, So we didn't retire. It wasn't like you retired with millions in the bank back then.
Yeah. Well, moving on to your hockey program, what's one of your favorite moments, a part of the company?
Oh, as far as working with kids and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, there's so many. We couldn't really put one. The things working with kids, like whether it's shooting off ice or skills on ice, the greatest feeling you ever get is when you see a kid accomplish something that they didn't really know they could or wanted to, but in the back of your mind, I remember growing up thinking, why ever be able to shoot like that or pass like that, and teach them the fundamentals and watch them succeed. And the look on their face is nothing more rewarding than that, and then when you reach a kid, like I said, we do numerous anti-bullying programs, street hockey events. When you're delivering the message to the kids and you can see that they're absorbing it and taking it in about making a positive difference in each other's lives and not joining the pack to beat one down. Let's change that. Let's have a pack that fights off, bullies or, anything that's detrimental to an individual society, So those are my favorite moments, but there's so many great moments that I've had. It's countless, the great moments I've had working with kids and, whether it's, helping them with their hockey skills or life skills. It's just such a phenomenal thing to be able to do. And I mean, it's a true honor, to be able to do that.
Also, how is it with you talk about alumni group? How much fun can that be?
It's the best because now what I talked about when you walk away from the game, and there really weren't alumni groups back in my day. I retired, but it gives you back what I just talked about, like that camaraderie and the friendship. Like all the events we do, we're close knit. And this, it's growing all the time because guys are retiring, right, from pro hockey, but even the Bruins alumni working with guys and playing with guys and being in the locker room and hearing the stories or in creating those relationships and those bonds are, it's priceless. And I'm sure you've had those relationships in sports and, school and everything else. Like there's nothing like it. So, it's a phenomenal thing to be able to do that.
What's one of the guys interviewed once named the Chancellor. He told me this should be one of my new questions. I actually like it. He said, what's one piece of advice you wish you had growing up?
That is really a good, and that's a great question because I've been asked that before and I don't know what the answer is. And I still don't know what the answer is because I really wouldn't change my childhood for anything. Like I think every mistake I made and every every adventure or everything I've ever done was for a purpose or a reason, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of good mentors, like I said. Like the one piece of advice, I can't really give you an answer on that because like everything you went through, even the disappointing frustrations or whatever it might have been, like it made me a stronger, better, more well-rounded person, you know?
Hmm.
So if I had advice to change it, I might change the human being I am today. And
Hmm.
again, like my childhood, whether it was, good, bad, or ugly, wouldn't change any moment of it for anything. So that's just an honest answer.
What's one piece of advice you would give to professional hockey players getting out of the league and for professional hockey players that are entering the league?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if if I'm qualified to even give that advice because everyone's has their own past. But as far as coming out of the league, it's just staying connected. It's so important, and knowing you're not alone, right? Because
Hmm.
we talk about the money today and the money then, but it's just a currency. It's a piece of paper. Like
Yeah.
human nature is about relationships and being connected and having purpose, right? So
Hmm.
that's the advice I would give to anybody. Stay connected, have purpose in your life, right? And you'll
Hmm.
never be alone, and you never have a bad day, right? So to speak.
Yeah.
Entering the league, like what, like there's going to be, like I said, in all facets of life, you're going to have, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and there's going to be a lot of challenges, and you're going to have a lot of adversity to face, and perseverance and dedication, commitment, and working your way through the difficult times is what you got to stay on track for, because there's so much that's out of your control. All you can control is your effort and attitude at the end of the day.
What do you think about the current NHL?
I like the current NHL. I love the skill part of it. Like everything, no sport's going to be perfect. I
Hmm.
think that I like offense more than anything. So guys are so much bigger, stronger, and faster today. I almost wish they'd make the ranks bigger, so you can
Yeah.
see a little more skill, because I hate when there's not enough space out there to see. I mean, guys like Connor McDavid, right? Watching him, or
Hmm.
or even Marchand, phenomenal player, right? Watching
Yeah.
him face is like, that's what I love about hockey, and that's what I love seeing Bobby Orr do. He was magical out there with the puck and being able to, have room. It seemed like to create, be a creative hockey player that was like, it was poetry in motion. So
Hmm.
like opening up that type of thing, the game for
Hmm.
offense, what I'm all about. But I'm an offensive guy. There's probably a guy who was a defensive guy who played. It's like, I'd like to see more defense and shut it down a little bit, right?
Hmm.
But I think it's a great sport. I love where it is. I love the fact that it's national now and international. So I think it's hockey's got a bright future.
Hmm. Did you have any great relationships with players internationally that couldn't speak the language as well as some of the other people, like from Russia, for example, people like over there?
Well, it's interesting because when I played, there really wasn't much of an international influx until really later in my career, because Russia was still Iron Curtain, and the players
Hmm.
weren't just starting to defect later on towards the retirement of my career to come over here. We had one
Hmm.
guy come, which was one of the pioneers in Washington, a guy named Michael Pavanka, who
Hmm.
defected to Czechoslovakia from the World Junior team. And it was really hard because you didn't speak the same language, right? But,
Yeah.
a credit to them, and they took English classes. And, after a year or two, he was able to speak enough so that you could really see the personality and stuff. And I can only
Hmm.
imagine how that is to go to a team where you don't speak the same language in a country. So you try to be, as encouraging or as good a friend as you can without speaking the language. There's a barrier
Hmm.
there. So a guy like Bent Gustafsson, Sweden. So
Hmm.
obviously Swedes were coming over, not so much, but it wasn't a communist country. He spoke pretty good English, and with Washington Capitals, he was a great friend. And the international flavor was awesome. The Swedes and the Europeans, they're great human beings. They really are.
Hmm. Earlier, you talked about you think Orr is the greatest player. What do you think if people say it's Gretzky?
Well, it's arguable. You know what I mean? It really
Uh-huh.
is. And I think, I'm totally biased and unobjective when it comes to it, because I grew up in Boston. Bobby Orr was my idol. He was like
Yeah.
God. He really was. And to have met him, since then, and, being a part of the Bruins alumni, and to see that he's even a better person off the ice just enhances that. So I'm totally biased on that. I think Gretzky's a phenomenal player. There were two different total players, and Gretzky is the best forward of all time. Bobby was the best defenseman of all time. It's arguable who the greatest player was. If you ask me, put the gun to my head, it's Bobby Orr,
Yeah. Well, that's how ended off. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's been a great interview, great questions. And if you need any follow-up, like I said, I'm an open book. Give me a call or reach out to me anytime.
I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Good talking to you, buddy. Have a great holiday and New Year.
Good talk. You too.